Hey, y'all, welcome back to the Late Night Vision Show. This is episode number 218, and we are back again with another great show. My name is Jason. I'm the owner of Outdoor Legacy, and I have got my co-host of the Late Night Vision Show since episode 1. We have been putting out auditions for a new co-host, but so far no one has applied. So we have still got Hans from the Hans East Texas YouTube channel. What is going on tonight, Mr. Hans?
You must have put the starting pay in the wanted ad. That's why you hadn't had anybody.
Yeah, that's right. That's
hadn't had
right.
anybody apply. Man, well, I hope that everybody had a great July 4th weekend. We are fresh off of a long weekend, thanks to the boss, Jason Robertson, owner of Outdoor Legacy, letting the employees have a day off to celebrate the country, our great country. If it were up to him, y'all, we'd be like closed every day celebrating something, but we got to keep the doors open. We got to sell something. So if you are interested in any night vision or thermal optic, please give us a call, 877-350-1818. You can call me. You can call and talk to Jason, whichever one you want to talk to. You can check out all the stuff on the website, outdoorlegacygear.com. This time of year is the best. I was talking to a guy, this is the best time of year to buy a scope because most dealers have a lot of stuff in stock, including us. We have quite a bit of stuff in stock now. It's not going to last very long. It usually doesn't as you get closer to fall, but it's nice to finally be able to talk to people, Jason, and talk about scopes and be like, oh, yeah, we got that in stock. Because for so long, in the fall.
We've had 2 years
winter,
of that, honestly.
Yeah. And, especially fall, winter, and spring, people call and you're like, oh, yeah, when you're talking about scopes and you're making recommendations and you're talking through the options and you're like, yeah, sorry, we don't have that. We don't have that. We don't have that. But now it's like, yeah, we've got it. Yeah. When can it ship? It can ship today. So that's it makes it a lot more fun when people can get that instant satisfaction and gratification when they're looking for a scope, because like anybody else, we want it and we want it now. And that's a lot about what today's show is about. We're talking about the 10. Well, why don't you explain it best, Jason, because I think that you can explain it better than anybody else.
All right. So this is a 2-part show. We rarely do those. I can only think of maybe 1 or 2. There was an interview, I think, way back when where maybe Glenn guessed we went long, or maybe it was Glenn. Maybe we did with Byron South too. I'm not sure. But listen,
I think it was Glenn. But I'll tell you this. I'm going to cut you off real quick because you remember. I don't know if they do it much. There's not many sitcoms these days. But you remember when you're watching your favorite sitcom and they're like, oh man, this is a 30-minute show. There's no way they're going to wrap this. Yeah, there's no way that they're going to wrap this up in 30 minutes. There's no way. And you're just looking at the clock and it's like, okay, there's a commercial break. There's no way it's not going to happen. And then the 3 dreaded words, to be continued. And so I always hated those. We're doing it right now, but you definitely stay tuned for part 1 and part 2 because there's a lot of good information in here.
Well, and it's funny because we've all gotten so used to like Amazon and Netflix that now they release a whole season, so the leaving you hanging is just long enough to click to the next one. In the old days, it was you got to wait a week. See, or what about this? We are way off topic. But what about when they left at the end of the season with like, did somebody die? And then you had to wait 6 months for the new season. So, all right.
Yeah. Well, and we're talking about this. People don't even know what the show's about, but yeah.
Exactly. We will not, that's exactly, we're way off topic. We will not wait 6 months to do part 2. So part 1, this show is going to be, it's going to be the top 10. These are just going to be the first 5 things not to do when buying a thermal or night vision optic. Okay, so the top 10 things not to do. And these are in no certain order. They're just kind of the order that they came to us, and we scratched them down so that, it's not like a top 10 from any certain order. But we got 5 today. We're going to go over these. And, some of this may seem like a little cheesy. Like, oh, come on. We're being serious. All these are legitimate good advice. Now, whether you take it, that's up to you. Okay. You do not have to take our advice. But the one thing that Hans and I have a lot of experience with, besides just using thermal and night vision optics, hunting with them, testing them. It's talking to end users. There's probably nobody in the business that talks to more end users than Hans and I, just because that's what we do all day long, 5 days a week. And so we get I get a lot of the same questions over and over, and that's fine. I mean, that's what we're here for. But we also see mistakes that people make. And sometimes it's just people don't take our advice when we offer it, and that's fine. It's their money. It's their choice at the end of the day. Other times, guys come to us, a lot of times, Hans knows this, and they tell us, oh my gosh, I made a huge mistake. I bought this optic somewhere else, sight unseen. I didn't research it. I just whatever. So there's a lot of mistakes. We pulled out the 10 that we see that cause problems, and we're going to go over 5 of those today. So Hans, why don't you get this thing rolling? And guys, we're going to try to go through these fairly quickly. We're going to hash them out, talk about them a little bit, but we hope it's helpful. And by the way, this is not just for first-time buyers. All these can apply to anyone looking to buy a night vision or a thermal optic. So let's get this thing rolling.
Yeah, I'm looking at this list, and this is one of those situations where it's do as I say and not as I do, because in my own, not with obviously, stuff like this, but I can see myself doing a lot of these on a lot of purchases.
Me too.
Ask my wife, and she'll be like, yep, you do that. All the bad things I probably do. So the first one on the list that we have is a difficult one, because there's a lot of guys that get in a bind. But the first don't of buying a thermal scope is don't impulse buy. So Jason, I'll give you a situation. A guy needs a thermal scope. He's got a coyote hunting tournament coming up in 2 weeks. He's put it off long enough, and he's got to do something and get something in as soon as possible. We get a lot of people that it is the last moment type of thing where they need it as soon as possible, but it's really hard sometimes not to impulse buy. And I know we do that quite a bit, and that's why they've got, when you go to the grocery store, they have all the stuff right there by the register. It's because they're like,
only
you're just
time I
grabbing
buy
stuff.
gum.
Yeah, you're just grabbing everything you can as you hit before you get there. But that's a tough one, because there's a lot of people like myself, that I just don't like shopping, and not talking about going to a store and getting a grocery cart and walking around the aisles. I don't like that either. I hate that. But I just don't like researching and searching and I just don't like the process of buying anything. So usually, that to me, impulse buying is a thing that I struggle with from time to time.
Yeah, and I think that the issue here is whether it's a night vision optic that's $500 or it's a thermal scope that is $2,000 to $10,000, whatever it is, it's a lot of money. I mean, $500 for a night vision scope is a lot of money. I mean, we know that. We fully admit that. Everything we deal with is expensive. So, in my opinion, impulse buying a package of bubble gum at the grocery checkout is one thing. Impulse buying a very expensive, optic, it can be a lot worse. Now, if you're just made of money and you're throwing around this stuff, $100 bills like it doesn't matter, okay. But most of us, Hans and I included, don't fall into that category. So the purchase matters. And what you don't want to do is make the purchase and then do the research. Find out later, oh my goodness, this doesn't match what I want to do. And it's, like Hans said, we hear it a lot. Hey, I've got a hunt coming up in a week. I need to buy something. And what do you have in stock today?
What do you have in stock? Yeah, that's the big thing. What do you have in stock?
What do you have in stock?
Gosh,
and
then,
it
just makes you so nervous.
Inevitably, what's going to happen. The guy's going to tell you what he's going to do. You're going to say, well, the best scope is this XYZ, but it's not in stock, and we may not have one for 3 or 4 weeks. And he's like, forget it. And you're just like, oh man. I mean, this is, you're fixing to spend this money and buy stuff. So anyway, you get it, guys. I would just say, do your research, call somebody. I mean, that's a big deal too. I mean, you need to. Another impulse buy that I hear about is a guy says, "Well, I walked into the local gun shop and this was on the shelf, or I was at a gun show and I saw this." That's a super, and that's like buying the bubble gum. Don't
Yeah.
do that. You know, you need to research this. These things are not all created equal. They all these scopes and handhelds, binoculars, they have different intended uses. You know, even the manufacturers don't usually tell you what the intended use is, but I can tell you if one is a 2 power and one is a 4 power, they have different intended uses. So
Absolutely.
impulse buy, do your research. All right.
Yep.
Now this one right here, this is funny because this actually, we jokingly mentioned this on last week's show and somebody brought it up in the comments. And it is, don't go to Facebook and ask what's the best thermal scope or what's the best night vision scope. Guys, this gets done 10 times a day in every night hunting or thermal forum or group on Facebook. It happens on message boards and places as well, but Facebook is the one place we just always joke. We see it. It's over and over. What's the best thermal scope? Well, I can answer that, and I can say it just like this. I'll answer it with a question. What is the best vehicle? Not even the best truck. What's the best vehicle? But if I numbered it down and I said, what's the best truck? Well, what are you likely to say? Well, the one you've got, right? You're happy with it. Or not the one you've got because you don't like it. You know, you're having trouble with it. And so the problem is that doesn't take into account, okay, are you just a single guy and you're just going to, drive back and forth to work, maybe haul a sack of deer corn? Do you have 4 kids? Are you going to haul a cattle trailer 4 days a week? Are you going to pull a 32-foot long fifth wheel travel trailer to Colorado? I mean, what are you going to do with it? How are you going to use it? That does not get included in what's the best thermal scope. And best doesn't always mean the most expensive. I mean, we talk about that a lot on the show of it's what's best for you. And when you ask these questions, all you're getting is this confirmation bias that people provide of, well, this is the scope I have and I absolutely love it. This is what you ought to get. Again, it may be the absolute worst possible choice of a scope for you, and might be the best possible choice for the next person to ask the question. So that is, I understand the desire to ask it, but it's you're 10 steps down the road. That the question needs to be, here's what I'm doing, XYZ, all these things, lay this out. Here's my budget, here's the magnification, all these things to get to that point.
Yeah. And oh man, I tell you, and you read some of those, and it's not just Facebook, but also the forums, all that kind of stuff. But you see some of these responses, and it's like the people that are recommending these scopes are like, well, that scope hasn't been around in 4 years. All of these, there's a lot of stuff that I want to say this about the Facebook deal and getting information. Facebook is not a bad place to go get information. There is a lot of good advice on Facebook, but as everybody knows, there's a lot of junk and a lot of, like you said, biases. There's a lot of what I call homerisms, but basically I've got the best scope, or I feel like I have the best scope, so I'm just going to recommend that to everybody. But I think that Facebook should be used in a way where it's in the very early part of your search, very, very early, and you are just trying to get to know the names of these scopes, whether
or look at videos. There's a lot of
video and take, if the same 3 scopes keep coming up in the thread when you ask the question, write those down and then go to YouTube and look at some videos on it, and then talk to people that have used it, talk to dealers, talk to experts that have used this stuff in the field. But Facebook, again, I would not use that as a place to get my buying decisions from, because again, it's you look at some of the answers that you see on there, and either, a guy that's saying, my longest shot's 100 yards, and then you got guys that are going to recommend a 4-power base scope,
Exactly.
and it's you're going to save yourself a lot of heartache and headache if you kind of take a lot of that with a grain of salt. But you really just, if you're in it for the first time, you're just trying to learn the names of the brands and the models, and that might be a good place staying on there to do that. But man, I tell you, it is.
Two things. Yeah, two quick things that I'd say about that wrapping this is that you've got to remember something. You are asking, I don't care if it's Facebook, and I keep saying Facebook just because that's the popular place. I don't care if it's got a guy's name there or not. You are asking anonymous people a question about how to spend your $500 or $5,000, and some of these people don't even own the scopes that they say they own. Some of these people have never looked through these scopes. Some of these people, I mean, really, I hate to say this, but not everybody, obviously, but you get liars. You get people that live in fantasy worlds and they make stuff up. Just be very
buddy saw one
exactly
from at a friend's house a year ago, and
that's as far as they get. So anyway, I think Hans, said that really well. There is good info there. There's a lot of really good hunting videos. People posting their videos, their kills and stuff. That's good. It's fun to watch. There is good info. Just be careful. Also, sometimes you post that, and again, we're dealers, so we admit this. We sell scopes, but sometimes you get blood in the water. The sharks come. I mean, it's just immediate. Everybody's trying to sell you something immediately when you're just trying to figure out, like Hans said, what are the different brands? I'm confused. So anyway, for whatever that's worth.
All right, next one, number 3 on the list, 3 of 5. We're running through these pretty good. All right,
good.
And this is something I'm terrible. Don't buy a scope based only on its looks. And I'm sitting here thinking, I'm reading that, I'm like, man, that brand new Iray Micro RH25 Coyote 10 looks really good and looks really good on a rifle. I think I'm going to buy that because it matches my Coyote 10 rifle.
There you go.
Or the Alpha or the Pulsar, the new Pulsar Thermion LRF looks fantastic on a bolt action rifle, a long range bolt action rifle. Man, I'm telling you, it's like you're in a movie. That's how good this stuff looks. So what's wrong with buying something based on its looks, Jason?
So I'm going to take this a step further, and not even just like the colors and whatever. And Hans, again, I know you hear this. And listen, guys, this is going to hit home. All right, when I say this, I'm going to offend some people and other guys. Well, I know what you're talking about. But here's an example. That Pulsar Thermion style scope. I mean, they came out with that. It was the first thermal scope that looked like a daytime scope. 30 millimeter tube, looks like a daytime scope. I mean, now we've got the Iray bolts, we've got the AGM adders. There's a lot of optics coming out that look that way. So it has grown in popularity at this point. But when they first came out, that was the first thermal scope to ever look like a daytime scope. So what I kind of call that traditional or square or block style design, and I don't mean that in any bad way, block. I mean, just kind of what it was. I mean, like the old Pulsar Trails or, the FLIRs or now, I mean, still like the Rattlers or the Hogsters. They're just small. I call that a traditional design because that's the way thermals have always looked. So it is less today because this 30 millimeter tube style scope has become so popular, but I still hear it. Guys will say, and again, this goes either way, but I don't want one of them scopes looks like a daytime scope. If I buy a thermal, I want it to look like a thermal. Or I don't want a scope that looks like a square block. I want it to look like, well, here's the problem. I mean, that's fine because there's getting to be more and more options, but and I understand we all buy things based on looks. I mean, if it looks like a turd on a cracker, I don't expect you to buy it. Okay. But my point is, I just hate to see people, and again, this is your choice, it's your money, but I hate to see people rule out some fantastic optics that might meet their budget and every need that they have, but they rule it out just because it's not the design that they wanted. And not that it won't work on their rifle. It may actually work better. You know, I mean, I've got a lot of guys that are shooting bolt guns, and I'm like, you know, well, and you really, if possible, you ought to buy one of these 30 millimeter tube design. And the guy will go, nope, I don't want one. I don't like the way they look. And then I'm like, okay, you're ruling out the class of scope that was made for your exact application. And so it gets difficult. It gets tough. So anyway, Hans is right. Whether it's color, whether it's a design, you know, be careful before you just strike something out. At the end of the day, let's be honest, we all make our ARs and our bolt guns look cool and they look good. You need to like what it looks like and you need to be happy with it. And if there is really something that you're like, that just looks, you know, terrible to me, then don't do it. But give scopes a chance, even if it's, you know, maybe not the exact design or color that you like or what have you.
Yeah, that's a tough one. That is a challenging one because, like you said, there's a lot of people that call up and are like, I don't like the one that looks like a daytime scope. Well, yeah, I know. It's tough. It's tough. But all right, let's go on to the next one. Don't buy a scope just because your friend has that one or has that specific model. So this is, I think, an important one as well because I think, you know, your buddy's got this scope. Well, it's kind of competition too. You want to buy one a little bit better than him, but you at least want to get him one as good as him. But, you know, just because you know your buddy's got this certain type of scope doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be right for you. There's a lot of factors involved. Again, what type of rifles you're shooting, again, and distances, what you're shooting. A lot of times if you're hunting together, that's one thing. Y'all are hunting the same, you know, areas and the same targets and all that kind of stuff. But, you know, there's a lot of other factors that go in and are involved in that other than just getting the same one that he's got. There might be something out that's a little bit better, or you know, your buddy's scope might be 2 years old and there might be a newer model that's just come out, or something like what we're running into now where you know, there's so much change and so many new optics coming out that, you know, there might be a new optic that's got a feature that you want that's not on your buddy's scope that you didn't know about. So that's where it's important to not just because your buddy's got it, run on to the internet and just buy it right off the internet without talking to somebody, because you'd hate to miss out on something extra just to get the known commodity, I guess, if that's a way to put it.
110%. I see this a lot, and I've had it where some guys had been, you know, their buddy or brother-in-law or whatever. Man, he's got this scope. He absolutely loves it. He told me don't buy anything but that. And I'm like, well, here's the problem. That scope was fantastic, no question about it, but they haven't made it in 2 years. And so you can't get it. Well, do you know where I can get one used? And it's like, hold up. You can get a better scope that's got better image quality, that is the same brand, that is the same, you know, it's just, again, I told this to a guy today, we were talking about optics. I said, these manufacturers, very rarely are we seeing something from the ground up. Oftentimes, it's just like a pickup truck. They take last year's model and they go, ooh, let's tweak this. Let's change the body style. Let's add this feature. Whatever. It's, you know, you continue to build. Very rarely is the manufacturer of a truck starting with the frame and just completely starting over and not using anything from last year. Same thing with these optics. So your buddy may have this 2 or 3 year old scope that was absolutely a great scope, but you may spend the same or less money today and get the newer model of that scope that's actually better, but you know, again, built off of it. So yeah, just definitely don't get hung up on that. Now, there are some times where I admit this. If a guy is just in love with the scope that his buddy has got, and I mean, I can just tell, like, that's the scope that he wants. And I mean, it's a good scope. He'll do what he wants to do. I'll say there's probably some better options. I would highly consider X, Y, Z, and ABC. But if you really want that scope, probably the best scope for you, because I know he's going to second guess himself no matter what, because he really wants that scope, because that's what he's seen, and that's what and again, we all, in the defense of that, it is logical, because it is less risky, because you're going into a known thing.
Yeah,
there might be something better, but it's unknown to me.
Exactly. Yeah. You're going to trust your buddy, and if your buddy has it and says it's good, then you're going to trust him, and that's understandable. But again, you don't want to miss out on something that might be a little bit better for the same price or less money. And that's where definitely some help and some guidance can do that for you.
Yeah, and on that topic, wrapping that up, I actually like it when somebody says, hey, my buddy's got this scope and we've been hunting, or I went on a hunt with this guy, whatever. And the first thing, I key in, I go, do you know what scope he's got? Well, I'm not sure. Do you have any idea? And the reason is because that gives me a baseline for what you've seen. Now I know, was that a 384 scope? Was it a 640 high resolution scope? Was it a 2-power, a 3-power? And so if you used that, because all I'm trying to do is ask you questions and figure out what's going to work for your situation. But if you've used this scope and you know for a fact it worked good for your situation, then I'm going to play off that. Okay, this guy had a 3-power 384 scope, and man, they're killing coyotes like crazy. Right. This may be what, let's look at other 384 3-power. So anyway, it is a good thing. All right, I don't want you to feel like don't call and mention your buddy's scope, because I like to know what you've seen and what you've used, if anything.
For sure.
All right, so number 5. We have gone through these. This is good. All right, now this is a huge one. Huge. This is our biggest one of the day. I said these weren't in any order, but I do think this is a good one to end on. And it is, do not judge a scope's image quality based on what it looks like in the store or in a convention center. All right, now I'm going to explain what I'm talking about here. I actually, this afternoon, talked to a guy about this as well. So Hans and I learned a long time ago, when new optics come out, like at, say, the SHOT Show in Vegas when we go, I can pick that optic up and I can look at it, and I'm in this giant convention center that you could put multiple football fields in. Okay, it's huge. And I can look through it and I can ooh and ah. And I can come back to Texas, and in 3 months, when that scope, starts shipping, the manufacturer will ship us the first one. We'll get to look at it and go play with it, and I can get in the field and I can go, man, that looked way better in Vegas, or, we've learned the hard way. Like, man, that looked fantastic and looks like poop in the field. I wonder why, or vice versa. So here's what it is. And I guys, you're going to hate this one, because everybody, and I get it, you want to put your hands on the optic, and it's very difficult to spend this kind of money sight unseen. You got to trust us, two country boys from East Texas, or you got to trust some guy on Facebook, or you got to trust, whatever you've dug through and you've ordered this thing from some big .com store. You got to trust somebody. And so you want to trust your own eyes. And you say, man, if I could just see it. I've heard that. And Hans, I know you have so many times. Right. If I could just look at these, I'd know. You're right. If you could look at them on a black night in a field where you can see 200 to 800 yards, then you could decide. You can't make an educated decision looking at it in the gun shop, in the gun show convention center, across the parking lot, even at night. It is so different. It does you no good, and it can actually give you a lot of bad information. And you go, well, what are you talking about? Thermal scopes in general look good at closer distances. They look good when there's a lot of heat. They look good when the temperature and the humidity is controlled, meaning indoors. So they look really, really good then. Even again, walking out to the parking lot, you're in a a city type atmosphere. You've got cars, you've got street lights, you've got concrete, you've got grass and buildings, and all that stuff has a lot of heat. And that's just the best that thermal can ever look. But when you get out in that black night, and I say dark, light, the light doesn't affect the thermal, but I'm making a point. When you go out there at night and you don't have all that heat, and you're looking at grass and twigs and limbs at 100, 300, 500 yards, maybe there's a deer or a cow or whatever way out there. That's when you're able to judge them. And I'm gonna take this a step further and say, even Hans and I, we've done this just in the last 2 or 3 weeks. We've gotten some brand new optics, and maybe Hans will get one or I'll get one, something that's not on the market yet. And we're like kids at Christmas. We're ripping them open and, we can't wait to get it out. But it's when UPS came, and it's always during the day. And so I look at it and I run outside and I look around. And like, for instance, I can think of a couple times in the last few weeks, I'll call Hans. I'm like, okay, I've got it. I'm looking through it. He's like, what do you think? And I said, it looks like $1 million, but it's also 95 degrees outside and 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Mm-hmm. I'll tell you tonight. And sometimes at night, I'm going, oh man, it's not as good as I thought it was going to be. So, and again, you go, why? It's heat. Yeah, it's heat. You got to at night is when you're going to see it. So that's my 2 cents on that, Hans. What do you think?
Yeah, it is. It's a tough situation because it's a lot of money to spend. I would feel more comfortable being able to put my hands on something I was about to spend $5,000 on or $500, whatever it may be. But there's not really a place around that has that opportunity for you to do that. And like Jason said, even if it did, what you're going to see inside of a store, inside of a convention hall, even outside, looking down the street, isn't a good representation of what it's going to look like in a field when you're trying to look at coyotes or look at hogs. Because I tell this to everybody, I said everything looks good inside a convention center. All scopes look good inside a convention center. So it is. But again, I would use that experience if I did get to put my hands on something before I bought it. I would use it to kind of get a good early idea of what to expect or an early opinion. But I would also follow up with, again, people that have used this stuff and used multiple optics to make sure that this is going to be exactly what I think it is once I get it out into real world conditions. And that is, making sure that it's going to perform. These are questions that a lot of people have. Which scopes perform well in high humidity? Which scopes do well in drier conditions? Which ones have better battery life in cold weather? I mean, these are all important factors, important questions that have to be researched. Good dealers are there to be a resource for you to be able to cut that research time down considerably. Yes, YouTube videos help, but I would use YouTube videos more for just looking what the video looks like and seeing what that may do, what the video quality looks like. But again, your best resources are people that use these optics and not just use one brand. I wouldn't call a pro staffer for a major thermal manufacturer and say, what scope should I get? If you're, asking about a specific scope of their brand, then yeah, but you need to talk to people that have used a lot of different scopes. And that's, people call and they're like, man, I'm, going to call Hans and get his opinion. And that's sometimes depending on how busy, they have to wait a little bit and call them back. But, it's worth talking to us. Even if you don't buy the optic from us, just being able to, get a chance to make sure that you're headed down the right road and you're looking at the right optics. Because Jason and I aren't going to make the decision for you. We are going
Some people don't like that. They want you to make the decision.
They want you to make the decision. But we're going to lay out the facts and make sure you understand everything you need to help you better make the decision. And that way, at the end of the day, you've got an optic that you feel confident with and you're going to have for a long time to come and be happy with. So, yeah, that's a lot. Those are some good ones.
I want to say 2 things on a couple things you said there. One, Hans did say, even if you don't buy the optic from us, and that's true, but please do. If you call us, please buy from us. We love talking to people. We do. This is, I mean, really, a guy told me, he said, you must get tired of the same questions over and over. And I said, man, we love this. We love what we do.
We're getting paid for it.
Yeah, it's great. I mean, there's a lot worse things we could be doing. So we love it. But if you are going to call us, we really, really would love to have your business because, our time is precious. We don't mind spending it with you. We want to. I don't expect you to buy it that day. No pressure. Hans and I are the opposite of high pressure salesmen at all, but we really, really would like your business. And I think the other thing is this, and I'm going to say this. I understand you're listening to this and you're going to go, these guys, they're salesmen. They want you to call them. They don't want you to go, down to the local gun shop and buy it. They don't. Guys, here's the thing. Hans is right about something, and he said, you need to talk to. Don't go talk to a pro staffer. Nothing against pro staffers, but a pro staffer for one company. What do you think he's going to tell you? And you go, well, yeah, but if I call y'all are going to tell me that the 5 brands y'all sell, whatever. I get that. Number one, you need to trust whoever you're talking to. If you're going to call somebody and you can't trust that they're not going to give you good, honest information, you probably called the wrong place, okay? You need to be able to trust that person as an individual, that they're going to be honest with you because anybody can lie to you. So that's number one. But also, I mean, I'm getting into this in things that I want to buy that are more expensive that I can't go put my hands on. I have to call the dealer. And I understand that I'm taking a risk that dealer can just try to sell me whatever he's got in stock or whatever he makes the most money or whatever. But I don't call dealers that if I don't trust them, then I'm not going to call them. But I have to do that in other areas of life because I don't have the opportunity to touch and hold. And let me give one quick example. We're going to wrap the show. Suppressors. When I buy suppressors, I have a company that I call that I trust, and they deal in all these different suppressors. They use them. They do all the decibel sound, all the things that really don't interest me. Just like when you call me, you may not care about all the, what's the microns, and you don't care. You want a really good scope. When I buy a suppressor, I don't care about all that. Just tell me which one will do what I want. And I have some specifications that I want. I want one that's not way too long. It's not way too heavy, 30 cal, whatever. So I'm coming with, here's a few things that I want. You as the dealer, you sell them all, you use them all. Tell me what to buy. And I trust them. And I've had a great relationship, so I just keep going back and doing business with the same people over and over. So again, same kind of thing when you're buying scope. Folks, this is the top, or not the top 5, but the first 5. And real quick, it's don't impulse buy. Don't go on Facebook or a forum or a message board and ask what's the best thermal scope. Don't buy a scope based solely on the way that it looks. Don't buy a scope just because your friend or your buddy has that exact model. And don't judge a scope's image quality by the way that it looks in a store or in a convention center. And we've got 5 more of these that I think are just as hard-hitting and just as beneficial as these. We'll be doing those on part 2, maybe a week or 2 before we do those, but we will be coming with that. So stick around for that. You've already found the Late Night Vision Show. If this is your first time coming on here, we hope you've enjoyed this show. You can see sometimes Hans and I get off topic. We both like to talk a lot, and we'll chase some rabbit trails. But we hope that you find it interesting and helpful and beneficial. If you do, you can like the video. You can subscribe, whether you're listening on a podcast app or on YouTube. And when we say subscribe, we're not asking you to pay any money or do anything. All we're asking is you just click the little subscribe button, or sometimes it's a bell icon or whatever it is on the app you're using. It doesn't get us anything. We're not making money on it. It just helps you to be notified when there's a new episode that comes out. And we come out with these every Thursday, and you may see it pop up and go, I'm not going to watch that one or listen. It doesn't interest me, or it's not a topic I want. But that way, at least you see it. Otherwise, sometimes you just got to go search, and that becomes a pain. So when we ask you to subscribe, we're not asking you to join our Jelly of the Month Club or anything like that. But
That sounds pretty good.
also, if it would be good if you're looking for anything else about the Late Night Vision Show, you can go to thelatenightVisionShow.com. Now, if you're looking for reviews of thermal scopes, we do all those right here on this show. But Hans, on his channel, he does those reviews, and they're different than what we do. A lot of times, he's going to have some hunting video, in the field video that is going to show you what that scope's going to look like. A lot of times, he might have it on a rifle. He's going to give some different information than we do. I mean, when we're both talking, we're talking over each other and thinking of things on the fly. His videos are normally a little more condensed. They're shorter, but he's packing a lot of good and sometimes different info in. And you can find all those reviews at his YouTube channel, Hans ETX. That's HANSETX, Hans East Texas. You can also find him on Instagram. He's over there all the time, posting short video clips from the field out of these optics, as well as posting pictures and that sort of thing of these optics. Sometimes he should be answering phone calls, but I think he's over there doing that. But that's okay. I guess he gets paid to do that too. So yeah, you can find him there. And then Outdoor Legacy. Obviously, you can find us at Outdoor Legacy Gear, GEAR, outdoorlegacygear.com. We're on Instagram and YouTube and Facebook and all that, so you can find us at all those places as well. But the big thing is, if you're looking for a scope and you don't know where to start, or maybe you've got a pretty good idea, maybe you've got it numbered down to the scope you think you need to buy, but you need some confirmation, call Hans and I, 877-350-1818. 877-350-1818. We are very, very glad to help you, to talk to you, to walk you through this. We'll be glad to help you with the sale. We've got two ladies in the office, Angela and Michaela, who are fantastic, and they can help you get the sale done. If you want to do it over the phone versus online, whatever it is, we can hold your hand through the whole process. And again, we would love to talk to you, and we would really, really appreciate your business.
Yes, and we are your two favorite night hunting addiction enablers. And welcome to the Night Vision and Thermal Hunting Addiction Anonymous group. We're only here to feed you with your bad habits. No, thank y'all for joining us. Episode I almost said 2000. 218. Yeah, this has been episode 218. Join us next week, next Thursday, for another episode of the Late Night Vision Show. We've got a couple scopes that are hush hush, but yeah, coming soon. So there's gonna be some special shows coming up. So with all that being said, y'all stay safe in the fields. Come back, see us next week. Give us a comment, give us a like. Call us if you're interested in a scope. We appreciate everything. Stay safe in the fields. Keep making them bacon pancakes.